I took a trip down to Southern California recently. I took the 5, which is supposed to be the fastest way down, but to me, traveling on 5 makes it feel like 1,000 years. Anyway, it gave me a chance to check out all the quirks of my good old 2003 Honda Pilot. One that wasn't a big problem but still annoyed me was that the cruise control button lamp was dead. You may have seen my previous video where the bulbs in the center console were all out. That was actually a pretty unsafe situation because you couldn't see all those small buttons at night. It was just all blackness. So fortunately from that repair, I had a bunch of leftover bulbs, so I figured I could probably use those here. So this process starts by prying out this little panel that contains the 2 buttons here. Once that's out, the back of the cruise control button has the connector for the wiring harness. Here's another view of that connector and the tab that you have to press in order to release the connector. Once the wiring harness has been pulled out, then you just have to press in these tabs that actually hold the button to the panel. Yeah, there's just one on the top and then one on the bottom. They pry really easily. And with those tabs released, then the button just pushes out the front of the panel. So now you can see the 2 bulbs. I actually thought there was only going to be 1, but there are 2, so we'll go look at that on the bench. The bulbs just take a quarter turn counterclockwise to come out. I used a little bit of a pick to pry them out, but it was all pretty easy. So these bulbs are similar, if not identical, to the ones that I saw when I was replacing the bulbs in the center console. So I've been told that you can buy, I think from Honda, replacement bulbs that include this little socket mount. But the bulbs that you can buy from Amazon are just so cheap, but they don't come with that socket mount. You just have to do this little trick with bending the leads around yourself. So here's both bulbs out, and you can see a little bit more of how those leads bend around. You'll see more of that in a moment when I actually thread the new bulbs in. But it's not a very complicated process. So here, just for thoroughness, I'm applying 12 volts to the bulbs just to see if, or kind of confirm that they're dead, and they are indeed both dead. Okay, then I just start the process of trying to peel back those wires that are wrapped around that socket mount. I've got a little pick here for doing. You could use a pin or a needle to do this as well. So I'll keep this part of the video just at regular rate, just so it's easy to see exactly how the wires, it's pretty obvious how the wires get wrapped around, but I just thought I'd show it in detail so it's not intimidating. And then here I'm just applying the same 12 volts to the new bulbs just to confirm that they're working and they're okay. And over here you can see I've got a couple of packages of replacement bulbs. These are different sizes. I think I needed these for the console, and it turned out good because the one I thought I was going to use, the larger bulbs, didn't fit in these sockets, so I had to use the smaller ones. They're all 12 volts though. I'll include links to these in the description, but they didn't actually fit perfectly in there, the smaller ones. They seem to work fine. But there might be a better fit. Okay, here you can see that I'm starting to thread the new bulb into the socket. There are just 2 small holes in the bottom there. That's the trickiest part. And after that, you just have to bend the leads around. You can see that there are indentations in the mount that sort of guide the wire, the leads from the bulb around. So you just have to follow those. Okay, with the leads in place, then I just wanted to trim off the excess, and then it's ready to install. Okay, I'll just zip through this second one. It works exactly the same way. The mount was just ever so slightly different. I mean, it looks as though it was manufactured differently, but it ends up working the same. So when I went to put the cruise control button back in, I noticed that the interior light switch right next door also has a bulb. And I figured that one's probably bad too, so I thought I should take that one out and check it. So here's a better angle on that tab for the interior light switch. You just, again, press that, and then the wiring harness pops out, and then you can remove the switch. So sorry for the lousy camera work here, but again, those tabs on the top and bottom of the button are really easy to press, and then the switch just slides out from the panel. Okay, one more bulb. I'm going to again run this through pretty quickly. The process is exactly the same as the previous two. So back at the car, I just need to put the buttons back into the panel and then insert the wiring harnesses into the back of the buttons. And then with a little bit of shading here, then you can see that the cruise control button light goes on. I wasn't entirely sure what the other two bulbs were for until it got dark, and then I could tell that those bulbs illuminate the labels on those buttons so that they can be seen in the dark. And so it's just exactly like those console buttons. The bulbs for those were just there so that when you turn on the lights at night, you can see the buttons. So I pushed the panel back in and everything's back to running. I'm glad to see that at least one thing off the quirk list for the Honda Pilot is fixed, and now I just have to move on to the next thing.